My name is Peter, recovered alcoholic. Peter. Grateful to be alive and sober and part of the sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And first things first, thank the group for inviting me back here. Cool thing about being sober, you visit places and they invite you back. So I'm grateful for that. Thank Jimmy for reaching out to me, Sheldon for taping, and Thomas, if you can be a little bit more enthusiastic when you're giving out the points. Always good to see you, my friend. June 23rd, 1988 is when the love of God separated me from alcohol. Very grateful for this gift of sobriety. Very grateful for the many things God has given me and removed from my life as well. I do have a home group Wednesday night in Boca Raton. It's called No Problems, Just Solutions. We meet there at 7:30. It's a big book study. It's just a great meeting. I really enjoyed the meeting. What attracted me to it was the music that happens before the meeting, of us talking and chatting, and the noise I can hear tonight. And folks are there pretty early for a 7:30 kickoff. And when the meeting ends at 8:30, it's after 9 and we're still there. Drinking coffee and talking, looking for the white chippers and trying to help out. It's a really cool place to be for me on a Wednesday night. My wife and I really enjoyed being there. I do have a sponsor. His name is Bob Bazana out of St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm currently sponsoring 11 men, so my life was quite busy. Some of those men are low maintenance. Some of those men are very high maintenance, thus the gray hair and wrinkles. But it keeps me in the center. I can't tell you how many times the phone rings and I really don't want to pick up the phone. I'm tired, maybe a long day at work or whatever it was, but you pick up the phone, and when the phone call's over, I'm always better. I'm always a little bit more plugged in, a little bit more juiced up and excited once again. So the men who come to me for sponsorship, I often tell them how much they're giving to me as well. And it's my sponsor calls it pitching and catching. When it comes to what we do. I'm speaking tonight, and you guys are kind enough to listen. I'll go to a meeting tomorrow night, and somebody else will be speaking, and I'll be listening, and that's the great equalizer in Alcoholics Anonymous. So very grateful. You know, I got to tell you in the front end, my assignment is step one, and I should let you know that I belong here. But I've shared this from a million podiums that the longer I'm sober, and quite frankly, the older I'm getting, I was 65 back in July, so it's interesting at 65, when I wake up in the morning, my body makes these creaky sounds. I don't know when this started. It takes about a half hour to get to the coffee pot. I used to run to the coffee pot, now I kind of easy does it over the coffee pot. But the longer I'm sober, the older I'm getting. There's something in AA that I heard from my sponsor, that the truth is true until we discover a new truth, yeah? And one of the things I woke up to was not taking this for granted. And I got slapped with it like many of us when COVID hit, when we couldn't do this. And thank the good Lord for Zoom. We have Zooms out there tonight, but they told everyone to shut down, and a drunk said, we're not shutting down. But I really realized the importance of us getting together like this. And so what that gave birth to was a new truth in my life about the importance of relationships. Yeah, my job currently is to seek God at all costs and take a look at where my relationship with God is first. Because if I'm anemic in that relationship, I'm not going to be okay with me, which means I'm definitely not okay with you. And for me, Alcoholics Anonymous is about relationships. Not only relationships, intimate ones between a husband and wife, but just friendships. What does that look like? How many resentments am I harboring towards John or Mary? How much tension do I feel when they come in the room and I go, oh, it's them? It's me who has plaque on the soul. And I found I couldn't afford to do that anymore. I couldn't afford to do that, getting on bended knees in the morning and asking God to get me through the day where I'm resenting some of his kids, or getting up and behind a podium and doing this and talking about the good news that was brought to me in 1988. Meanwhile, when I see him or her, I get tight about it. That's not spiritual living. So there was a lot of praying for forgiveness and acceptance and a ton of inventory to get past that. The other thing that came to me was this thing called sobriety. How fragile this whole thing is for a guy like me. I speak for myself. I'll tell you, I'm not a model or an example of Alcoholics Anonymous. I might say some things you agree with, some things you don't, but I'm just here to share my experience, strength, and hope. I hope I don't ruffle feathers, but I hope I do a few times. But this gift called sobriety, I've watched a lot of folks crash and burn with tons of information, but really lacked the transformation. Had tons of information, but didn't have the revolution. Had the information, but was lacking a relationship with God, an intimate one. They can recite the big book, they can recite the traditions, but they weren't talking about God from the podium because they didn't have a relationship with this power. And for me, it's been incredibly important. But even with the relationship with God, I can do all the inventory I want, study the big book, study the traditions, know the concepts, go to meetings, and yet I was made really clear that sobriety still hangs from a very thin wire. Because I have something called, and I hope to hit this over the next 12 weeks, this predator, this thing that will be with me till I take my last breath, and that is a 4-letter word, and it's called the mind, the thinking part of us, that only focuses it on what's going to happen, we know what's going to happen, and what happened in the past. And the mind wants no part of this meeting or recovery or the big book or God or any of it. And it's always trying to get in there and separate me, if you will, from this power. And the thing I've learned, we can never be separate from that power which we're connected to, but there's a sense of separation, that there's me and God over there. So I'm left to self-reliance and trying to figure it out on my own. So it's really important that I go to God for the passion, the endurance to stay in the center of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thus, I sponsor 11 men, and I still have a sponsor with 36 years plus sobriety. A sponsor I call weekly, that I'm accountable to, and he knows what's going on in my life, not a sponsor in name only. And that has been my walk. It's that important to me. See, it can get real easy in here after a while that I start to worship the part of me that thinks it's God rather than God. I start to fall in love with the mechanics, and I worship the things that are pointing to the power rather than the power that things are pointing to. Got to watch that, because ego starts to show up and get right in there as soon as I get comfortable. Yeah? I no longer seek comfort. I did a bunch of years in there. Need to be comfortable. Don't upset my serenity. The entitlement and arrogance behind that, you know. But I don't seek comfort anymore. I'll tell you why. Because it becomes a current unmanageability in a heartbeat. Because what I think is going to make me comfortable might be the very thing that's going to take me, if you will, away from God, away from you. It's living life on my terms rather than life on God's terms. I don't even live life on life's terms anymore. That doesn't work for me. Because for a guy like me, living life on life's terms means I need to wake up with a double vodka first. Yeah? And then I need a whole bunch of money, and no matter how much I get, it's still not enough. And I want to be in a committed relationship, but I like to play around. And it's all okay, because I'll sign off on my own report card. So there's been lots of awakenings as I progress here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And for me, it's really important that I stay teachable. Really important. And I don't mean, when I say a beginner's mind, I don't mean to act like a beginner, and I don't mean to insult any beginners. But I wasn't well when I got here at the beginning. I'm still a work in progress. But a beginner's mind, to be open to new ideas and new wrinkles in this journey, and to really embrace the truth that's true until I discover a new truth. June 23rd, 1988, my separation from alcohol was not something that I decided to quit. I quit a whole bunch of times to go right back to the liquor store an hour later. It says in Bill's story that he says, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. He was separated. Like two guys in a fight, you got to pull them apart. You got to separate them before they kill each other. I couldn't quit. I tried. God had to get in the middle of that and separate me from the thing that was killing me. And that was alcohol and some non-conference approved dry goods. The last couple of years of couple of guys just woke up when I said that. The last few years of my out there was alcohol and Valium, to be quite frank. I couldn't get away from either one. But I was separated on June 23rd, 1988. I didn't see that day happening, by the way. I still can't see God about to enter my life and change things. It just happens, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it happens. And you go, oh my God. But in June of 88, June 23rd, 1988, I'm an alcoholic who was homeless. I'm an alcoholic who panhandled on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I was the guy, they have signs now like on Sunrise and Broward. I was that guy without a sign. And we used to call it Torah from the floor up. I was in serious trouble. I had been through 6 treatment centers at this point. You know, I had the bout with the narcotics. I'm running around with hepatitis C. I'm urinating blood. I weighed 210 pounds. I just been at the doctor, so I know. I weighed 130 pounds back then. I had construction boots, and the right boot was missing the front. I had blood-stained soiled pants on. You know, sweating and cold at the same time because I'm going through withdrawal, and I don't even know I'm going through withdrawal. I'm dying of alcoholism. And I don't say that to be graphic. I'm not embellishing, but it's just where alcoholism takes me. And when I get sober in 1988, I find out that my alcoholism doesn't come in a bottle of whiskey. The most insane thing I'll ever do in my life comes from the mind, and that's from a place called sobriety. The most insane thing I'll ever do is from a place called sobriety or sober, and that's picking up the first drink all over again. I never picked up the first drink drunk. I was always out of treatment sober. Maybe getting released from jail. I never did prison, but getting locked up. And then go pick up a drink again. I will embezzle sober. I will practice infidelity sober. I will lie, cheat, and steal sober. I will pick up a drink sober. Always happened. So I didn't realize how deep the roots go when it comes to this thing called alcoholism. And the first person I run into when I get sober was me, and it wasn't a good day. I thought once I put the plug in a jug after treatment and I'm sober, everything is going to be great. I'll levitate in about 90 days. Life's going to be great. I'm going to be rich and famous. And I'm going to AA meetings, and it wasn't that way. In fact, I was in worse shape emotionally my early days in AA than out there. Out there, I just drowned it away with booze and dodging cops and all of that. I know that life. But there I was in an area called Alphabet City in Lower Manhattan and living in an abandoned building. That wasn't the plan when I picked up a drink at 14 years old in Brooklyn. You can tell I'm from Brooklyn, right, by the way I speak. I'm not from Oklahoma.
Are you sure?
Jesus. Anyone from Brooklyn? Make yourself at home. Hit somebody. But, you know, I was the guy living in an abandoned building. 14 years old, I'd pick up a drink at Euphoric. Colt 45 beer like the older guys. I thought I was getting my stripes that night. I'm drinking with the older guys. The older guys were 17 and 18, by the way. But when you're 14, they're men. They know all of life's solutions. And I was able to roughhouse and be a little gangster and flirt with the girls. I probably made an idiot of myself, but I thought I was like Snoop Dogg meets Al Pacino that night. It was unbelievable. And I loved the effect produced by it. The plan was not to wind up homeless in 1988. The plan was not to visit 7 treatment centers. The plan was not to do many of the things I did in the search for another drink. The plan wasn't to wind up on narcotics for a number of years and suffer the consequences of that or get locked up regularly. That wasn't the plan. But alcoholism, this great deceiver, convinces me it's going to be okay today. We're only going to have one bump, one pill, just a little taste, and we're going to take the edge off, and we're going to be okay. It doesn't tell me in about 3 days I'm going to be at it all over again, if not instantly. And that was my story. I go down the rabbit hole immediately. I'm the type of alcoholic that if I was to, God forbid, drink tonight, you'll pull me out of a dumpster with this jacket and this shirt on tomorrow morning. That's just the way it goes for me. There's no gradual decline. I blow up. Because I'm a glutton when it comes to this stuff. That thing called the allergy, I would get stuck in more. I like the word more better than allergy. Allergy sounds too clinical for me, too medical. More. We get more. I need more. I'll pay any price tomorrow to seek comfort tonight, and I will do that in sobriety. Life's too painful. I'm really uncomfortable. I'll worry about the consequences tomorrow. I'm going to do what I want to do right now, what I think I need to do right now, and I'll worry about it tomorrow. And then today's solutions become tomorrow's problems, and I do this over and over and over again with double-digit sobriety. because I refused to submit to this power called God or this program in this sacred fellowship. I did that over and over and over again. The treatment center would say, what part of this don't you get? At one point he says, I don't know. I don't want to drink, but there I am in the liquor store picking up another bottle of whiskey. How do I get out? I mean, there were so many times I wasn't a bar drinker. I was on the street drinking, but just to set an example, I would be, figuratively speaking, glued to a bar stool, trying to get home to the girlfriend, the wife, the kids, trying to get to work, trying to make something of my life, and I want to, in the worst way. I want to be there for Christmas. I want to be there for the birthday party. I want to be there for my wedding anniversary. I can't get off the bar stool. I can't. I had one, and I have to have a second. See, part of this unmanageability, this craving, this more we talk about, is that my mind takes me back to that which is killing me. So here I am, get out of a treatment center with, 30 days, I'm clean and sober. Next thing I know, I'm in the liquor store because I'm going to have one. But the problem is the second drink always screams louder than the first. And it begs the question, why would I go back to that which is killing me when my body's physically sober? Because alcoholism doesn't come in a bottle of whiskey. I will pay any price tomorrow to seek comfort today. So here I am in this abandoned building hallway. My kid brothers idolized me growing up. I was a very gifted musician. And I was a kid in the neighborhood who was going to make it out via music, and my brothers idolized me. I was a good kid, good in school, good little athlete, but music was the thing. It was going to take me out. I was convinced that was my ticket out. Even my dad. By the time 1988 rolled around, my brothers wanted no part of me anymore. My youngest brother tried to beat me to death one night for the shame and embarrassment I was bringing to the family. He's a big boy, he could have done it. Friends had to get in the middle of that scrape. This is what I do. This is what alcoholism does. My brothers want nothing to do with me. My dad threw me out. My grandparents, I come from an Italian family. I mean, anyone's got an Italian grandmother. She invites everybody over for dinner, And my grandmother threw me out. She said, I can't have you here anymore. This is what I do. This is what many of us can identify with. It's not about me. Alcoholism is not just about me. It's about the people I take in on this horrible ride. So in 1988, I have no one to call. There's no girlfriend. There's no job. There's no money. I wasn't one of these cats who check into treatment with the cell phone and credit cards. I don't identify with some of these folks. God bless them. But I'm in that business for a long time. I see folks coming in and say, how bad was it? You got like 4 credit cards and a nice new cell phone. That would have been sold as soon as it was in my hand. I'll sell my soul. And it was June 23rd, 1988. Guys, I didn't even know it was the month of June, and I'm not exaggerating. I had no clue. I knew it was hot. In New York, it gets hot and muggy in the summertime. And I'm just wandering from drink to drink to drink and panhandling and hiding out at night and coming out during the day to panhandle, hiding out at night. I was so feeble. At 130 pounds and as sick as I was, a 10-year-old kid could have beat me up. I knew one more arrest, my dad's money and connections weren't going to save me. He wasn't even talking to me. So I'm in fear, impending doom all the time. So I hid out in the hallway, quite frankly. And on this particular day, when I came to on this filthy floor, in fact, the only light I remember, it was a kind of a crack in a door or glass, and the street light kind of illuminated the hallway a little bit. Other than that, it was just dark and creepy. And I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I find that the 12 steps illuminate the path to God. But I was so in the dark back then. And I was afraid. And it's unbelievable what happens with alcoholism. And many of you guys could probably identify with this. We just want to die. I know I'm never getting out from under. We get those recollections of the damage we did and the relationships we destroyed. And why don't I just OD to that? Why don't I just kill myself? Why don't I just go away? I welcome the idea. Bill talks about, he welcomed the idea of what? Dying. Alcoholism has me in a corner. It's not letting go. Alcoholism doesn't even care I'm sober 36 years. They're really not interested. It gets me on the way home, God forbid. Or here or there, doesn't care. It's very patient. And I came to on this floor, and I would come to with the shakes. My belly was upside down. I'm sweating and cold at the same time. My hands are vibrating. Anxiety was just coming out of my chest. I know I need to get to the street, panhandle, get to a liquor store, get a couple of pops in me and settle it down. And if I can hustle up some more money, get more whiskey and more Valium, I'll be okay. I'll get back in the saddle in control. One of the greatest delusions me or any alcoholic has, because it followed me right into Alcoholics Anonymous, was this: that life is controllable and I can control it. We do that sober. And when I got up off the floor, I collapsed. And then it was as if, I've described this as best as I can many times, like the fist of Gulliver reached down into my gut and pulled out all the poison. Because what happened, I began to weep uncontrollably. I couldn't stop crying. I don't know where this is coming from. The last time I cried was probably at my mom's funeral when I was 14. But when you're out in that life, no emotion. You don't have any, but you can't show any if you're going to make it. And the dam broke, and I couldn't stop crying. I don't know where this is coming from. And I'm thinking, I must be losing my mind. I'm here to report to you I lost my mind for a brief moment. And I pray every day that it never returns again. Because I have found in my experience, the only way I can really experience the abundance of God is when I'm completely out of my mind. As long as I'm in my mind, I'm not experiencing God. I'm experiencing a version of God, which is really me in disguise. I'm worshiping me and I don't even know it. When I'm out of my mind, I'm doing great. You know, when someone says, I'm so angry, I'm going to go down there and give them peace of my mind, give them the whole thing, you're better off. I made a plea to God that day. I despise God. I'm a cradle Catholic. I was never an atheist. I knew about the carpenter. My mom taught me about him and some power out there. But I was convinced they wanted nothing to do with me. This carpenter, this other power, whatever you want to call it, it was just messy. It was cloudy. And look at my life. I'm a bum, literally a bum. You took my mom when I was 14. I have no relationship with my old man. In fact, when we meet, we clash. And my brothers disown me. What kind of loving God is this? Yeah. But on that floor in this abandoned building hallway, I pleaded, please take me from this. I don't want to die. And we live life forward and understand it backwards. I'm really grateful that in that moment, I didn't come up with, okay, I need to go to detox, then I'll go to treatment, then I'll come to AA, I'll get a sponsor, do the steps, and be Moses by Tuesday. I wasn't thinking about detox or treatment or AA or anything. I don't know. I'm a clean erase support. I just don't want to die. And that's as raw as I could, as God can make me. I wasn't interested in anything else other than, for the first time, I don't want to die. Please take me from this misery, because I don't have the power to do it. And the thing about the bottom, that kind of bottom, we fall up. We might hit bottoms in recovery, but not that kind of bottom. And we think it's punitive, but it's actually a rescue where I got surrendered. I didn't have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to surrender today. That implies a lot of self-reliance. And if you did, I'm not here to change your story. I'm just sharing my story. I'm going to surrender today. Who's in charge of that? Me, once again. But something, if we really think about that moment, something came to us rather than from us, and we got surrendered when there were no options, nowhere to turn, all the doors were closed, and we're in darkness, emotionally speaking, in total darkness, whether it's Park Avenue or Park Bench, yeah? And that happened to me in this abandoned building. Please take me from this, I don't want to die. And then what God did in his infinite mercy is little by slowly start to connect some dots. Dots that I can never connect. And that was putting my dad back in my life for a day, which turned out to be a long relationship before he passed. And my dad found me on a street corner, scooped me up, and brought me to my 7 treatment center. And after all of this, 10 days, 12 days in treatment, I'm thirsty all over again. And thank the good Lord, by the grace of God, that I didn't get drunk or high. The cool thing about Alcoholics Anonymous, we're right in the middle with our book in this fellowship and doing service, is that we talk about grace, but we get to experience that power that feeds us grace. There's a big difference. The grace of God doesn't mean I'm spiritually fit. I speak for myself. It just means I'm getting an unearned gift from a loving Father. Spiritual fitness is a little something else. It's like going to the gym and hanging around. You do that for 90 days. You know all the equipment, you know the trainers, you know the patrons in there. You even know how to work out. But all I do is lift a cigarette. And after 90 days, I'm in worse shape than when I started. I need to get spiritually fit. I need to work out. And in step 4, they use words like strenuous effort. That's I'm going to break a sweat. I didn't know that. And I got placed in my 7 treatment center, and it was about 2 weeks later they sent me out to Minnesota, and I wound up doing more treatment, and halfway, 3/4 and so I knew nothing about this stuff. I knew nothing about recovery, I knew nothing about AA. I didn't even know after 7 treatment centers, I kid you not, who Bill and Bob are after 7 treatment centers. I don't know anything about the steps. They're Latin to me. I don't know what to do. I don't have a clue what to do, except one thing. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. That's it, because I don't know how to stay sober. And I want to stay sober. I can't endure this kind of pain anymore. It was made abundantly clear. It wasn't about getting relationships back, of course. I wanted my dad and my brothers back in my life. I wanted to see my family again. But that wasn't my primary reason. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to die. And on my own power, I'm going for a drink. I know it. I know it now. When the book says we concede to our innermost soul, that's not a conclusion of the mind. Some cats talk about the first 3 steps of conclusions of the mind. I tip my hat to them. My book gets me as far away from me and my mind as possible. Because a conclusion of my mind would say, it wasn't that bad, let's get another drink. We'll kick it off and see where we go. I'll only smoke weed, that's all I'm going to do. And a year later, I'm brought home to Brooklyn. I was taken to my first home group there. At 14 years old, when I picked up my first drink, I'm a nervous wreck. I'm full of anxiety. I'm fear-based and insecure. You know it. Totally self-conscious. No matter how many accolades I would get from my music, it wasn't enough. I still felt not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not muscular enough. I don't know what to do with a girl. If it gets like intimate, I never did it before. I'm dying. I want to, but I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'll stay away. My dad was larger than life, to be quite frank, in his heyday. He was a tough guy from South Brooklyn. I'll leave it right there. How do I even compete with this? I wanted to be a hippie growing up for music. I wanted to go to Woodstock when I was 10. I wanted bell-bottoms, long hair. I wanted hippie beads, you know. I like saying peace and love. My dad was convinced he picked up the wrong baby at the hospital. If anyone's ever watched the movie Goodfellas, that Robert De Niro guy, that's my dad, and I'm into peace and love, man. I called my dad man one time. He chased me about 4 blocks. But, you know, when I get sober at 28 years old, that same 14-year-old kid, that kid walked in here in a 28-year-old body. I'm physically sober. But I got this emotional thing going on. I still got this thinking mind going on, and I'm not connected, if you will, to God. I don't feel the connection. I'm spiritually weak, anemic. The spiritual muscles are like doughy. There's nothing going on. I'm hanging by a thread here, and I go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. Thank you, God. I found running partners in AA. We just go from meeting to meeting to meeting. You 4 guys put $1 in the basket. That's all we had. Nurse a cup of coffee all day long. Get the AA card, the AA moving violation, 0 to 60 in 2 weeks. We had one of those. But we were at least in the meetings. But I was brought to my first home group, the Free Spirit group. And at this point, I'm sleeping on my kid brother's couch. I'm supposed to be taking care of my kid brother. You know, I'm the oldest. And he's looking out for me. He wasn't charging me a dime. I'll never forget one time, I just share this quick story. It was a Sunday night. I'm going to a meeting it's called St. Mary's Church. They had a morning meeting, and later on they had an evening meeting. And it was one of those cold winter rainy nights in New York, just dismal looking. And I'm standing waiting for the bus on this avenue called Bay Parkway. And I'm standing on the corner, I'm under this overhead, trying not to get wet. It's just an ugly night. It's around 6:30, it's already dark out. I'm trying to get to the 7:30 meetings. No one's out. And my kid brother turned the corner. He was coming home from the gym with his duffel bag, and he sees me. His jaw drops, his face goes white, and he says, "Where are you going?" And I told him where I was going. Because I'll be home in a couple of hours, I'll pick up something to eat, and we'll hang out. And he said, okay. When I rang the doorbell, he was standing basically at the door to see if I was going to come home. And it dawned upon me that even though I spent a year in Minnesota, here I am back in Brooklyn, I'm going to meetings and I'm sober, they still smart, my family still hurt, and we're still living it, he's going to do it again. See, making meetings is wonderful, but and the walk is the sermon, not the talk. They wanted to see me walking this out. So when I showed up later on with some food, spent all my money on takeout to sit down with my brother, I'm walking it out now. He said he was going to do it, and he did it. Oh my God, maybe something good is happening this time. But I was brought to the Free Spirit Group, and I found my first sponsor. I need to speed this up a little bit. And my first sponsor, we got a big book. And I remember saying, I hear this type of fourth step, and that's this type of fourth step, and this type of fourth step. And my sponsor was had a lot of edges. He was a real Brooklyn guy. He wasn't well received in a lot of meetings because he was one of the few guys who walked around with a book into a meeting. And when I told him about all these versions of a fourth step, and I hear people doing a first step this way, and he says, what does this book say? If you want to do it that way, great, I'm not your sponsor. If you want me as your sponsor, we're going to do this. And we began a journey through the book. And that's when I started to touch what alcoholism really is, that I have alcoholism, not wasm, with a number of years sober. I can suffer from alcoholism. At the beginning, I said I'm a recovered alcoholic, not cured. Recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind, the body's first promise. I'm not suffering if I'm in good spiritual condition from the roller coaster of alcoholism. Today's good, tomorrow's bad, the next day. And, I come up with a solution today becomes tomorrow's problem. I'm moody today, I'm depressed today, I'm happy tomorrow. If I have money, I'm good. If I don't have money, oh my God. That's riding a roller coaster. I'm getting drink signals, drink issues. I want to get drink. I'm thirsty today. I'm not there. Oh my God. And the thing about untreated alcoholism is I'm glued to anything my mind says. It creates my current reality. I'm living on page 52. I'm having trouble in a lot of areas of my life, but I'm physically sober. And here's the tip-off. When someone's talking about this stuff to me, I tune them out, which means their ego has got me. When I'm speaking to some new guys in AA, and I'm talking about what they're up against and the solution to it, they'll pick up their phone, they'll get up for a cup of coffee, they want to take a smoke break. I know what's going on. I don't want to hear this. I'm not done. But when I'm hanging by a thread and someone throws something to save my life, I'm jumping. I don't care where you take me, it's better than dying. So it was interesting in 1988 with this sponsor because we covered 43 pages in our big book, plus doctor's opinion. It's about 53 pages. Pat, am I close? About 53 pages, all on step one. And it all takes me to a statement on page 43. That if when I honestly want to, I can't quit entirely. When I drink, I have little control of the amount I take. I'm probably alcoholic. Doctor's opinion, and the first, if you will, 42 pages takes me to that statement. By then, if I don't know the answer, I should by then. And that's been my story as an alcoholic. I want to quit, and I can't. When I start, I can't stop. No matter what. No matter what you put on the table that I'm about to lose, I will pick a drink instead. The thing about being sober a while, I can experience other types of unmanageability like sprees, like sex sprees and food sprees and money sprees and gambling sprees and shopping sprees and fear sprees and anger sprees and you name it. The list goes on ad infinitum. Because I'm not okay with me, because I'm not okay with God. I'm not okay with you, and the external world owns me. If only my candidate would win. If only my team would win. If only he or she would say, I love you all the time. If only my boss would give me the raise. If only the weather. If only, on and on and on. And what I'm looking to do is get that out there to do what I want so I'm okay in here. It's never going to happen. That's called current unmanageability. I'm using me to get past me. The part of me that creates all my problems is up here. It's not where I go to solve my problems. That's in here. The freedom I'm seeking today is no longer for me, but from me. The further I get away from me, the better. Page 62 in our book talks about selfless, self-centered, that we think is the root of our troubles. It goes on and on and on about what I'm up against as an alcoholic. It doesn't mention alcohol once on page 62 because I'm sober. But I still got me to deal with. And this thinking mind that's a predator. So what am I up against? This threefold illness. I got this body that demands more alcohol once alcohol goes in. And I can't change that. I will be alcoholic to the day I die. Once a drunk, always a drunk. Pick up a drink after a number of years sobriety, we continue to drink. It's not like I've become immune from alcohol if it goes in my body anymore. But the question I always ask was, what takes me back again? I've been in the treatment business for a long time, most of my sobriety. I was brought into that business, and I see folks coming in and, 15, 20, 30 treatment centers. As you believe you're alcoholic? They say, yeah. I said, tell me why. Well, I can't stop once I start. I said, then why do you go back? And then they're baffled. That's frightening. I got this thing called the mind. Big Book says main problem for me centers in the mind rather than the body. I have an alcoholic body. It responds differently than normal people when it comes to booze. We're in South Florida. A lot of people come down here for vacation. They get drunk every time they're down here. Every day they're down here, they're getting drunk. And they'll go back home and talk about how they got drunk for a whole week straight. We even smoked pot while we were there. Oh, my God. But then they go to the office on Monday, sit by the coffee pots. Oh, what a great time we had in South Florida. The weather was great. We got drunk all the time. We get locked up, we disappear. We're on the lam. We're in trouble. I'm in the projects at 3 o'clock in the morning. Started with one beer. But it's the mind that takes me back. My mind doesn't see truth. My mind doesn't see reality. It lives in delusion. And it convinces me that just want to be okay because I'm wearing life too heavy. I'm traveling heavy, it's getting uncomfortable, or it's really good right now, or the sun came up, I'm getting drunk. It really doesn't make a difference. And I pick up the first one, I need to take the second one. And the love of children, of wife, of husband, of job, of family, of all of it gets easily pushed aside for the foolish idea that I can have one and get away with it. My experience abundantly confirms that to be a lie. But I did it over and over and over again until this God entered my life. And I was opened up enough. The third piece is this spiritual malady our book talks about. Now, half the planet, watch the news for 5 minutes, the whole planet has spiritual malady. It's upside down. But so do I. I have this disconnection. There was a gentleman years ago, Chuck C. called it conscious separation. I don't feel connected to God. When I don't feel connected, when there's no relationship between me and God, guess who's running my life? Me. That means I'm headed back to a drink. And when I get spiritually fit, this mind gets fixed, which means I'm not picking up a drink of alcohol. It's 1 + 1 = 2 here, but my mind clouds it and makes it really difficult. It turns the 12 steps into trigonometry, and it really isn't. Why would God make recovery difficult? So I sat with the sponsor, began a journey to the first step to see how deep those roots go in my alcoholism. I got a couple more minutes. I can suffer from alcoholism without ever putting a drink in me. And I can die from alcoholism without ever putting a drink in me. I was living in Texas a number of years ago, working there as well, and I was handed one of these magazines with all sorts of statistics. And one of them scared the heck out of me. They did this study, and it said that more alcoholics commit suicide sober than drunk. I had to read it like 3 times. Did I just read what I just read? That's a frightening statement, that I could die from alcoholism without ever putting a drink in me. My ego gets into a place I'll never get there. It won't happen to me. This is nonsense. I've learned my lesson. As soon as I claim I'm well, I'm not. As soon as I claim spiritual, I'm probably not. As soon as I claim God, I probably don't have him. For a guy like me, and I don't do any of this perfect, you're looking at a broken and flawed person. But if spirituality doesn't touch every single area of my life, it's going to touch none of my life. And there was a lot of work ahead of me to really understand what I'm up against on this journey through the steps. That discipline, God will meet me along the journey and keep me disciplined. But it's funny, when you sober up, the weight of life was coming at me like, what did I do? Suddenly I wanted to have a relationship with my old man, and that was gone, and my kid brothers, and that was gone. What do I do? Nice to have a lady in my life, but I didn't even know how to start. I wish I was gainfully employed, but that's far away. I don't know, something happens, we get transformed, revolutionized, awakened, whatever word works for you, and suddenly relationships start to change because my perceptions start to change, my actions start to change, because everything revolves around this power called God. And I got to spend 36 years of sobriety with my old man. It was wonderful. So I need to take a look at what the spots are, not alone what I'm up against in this thing called alcoholism. If I don't have that, there's no way I'm going to look at step 2. Why do I have to turn to God for sanity if I still think I'm okay? And I may not have faith, and I may not believe in God, but I do have faith, and I do believe in what alcoholism will do to me and how damaging my mind can be. That I'm convinced of, and I can work off of that. If you're here tonight and you got 30 days, don't walk away saying I don't have anything. You got 30 days. God just showed himself to you. Help a guy with 15 days. Help a guy with 29 days. Albeit it might be a little, but if I'm willing to do that, I'll get 31, and then I'll get 61, and then I'll have 15, 20, 30 years. A mustard seed. Tell the mountain to move, and it'll move. So I chop wood and carry water. Hopefully next week we'll kick around step 1 and get into step 2. That's all I got. Peace. All right.